Hey dads, welcome back to the Fit Dad Club podcast. My name is Jason Barrett. No Travis Jones this week as it is school restarting week. So as I don't have school age kids and he does, there's a lot of hecticness going on, as I'm sure a lot of you dads can appreciate. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to our giveaway that we started last week. If you didn't watch the 100th episode, really worth giving it a watch or giving it a listen. But we're doing a giveaway for our 16-week program that we're using to help guarantee that you'll lose at least 10 kilos. So if finance is something that you're struggling with and you really want to get your weight loss in check and you haven't been able to get there yourself, what we would love for you to do is to leave us a rating and review or send us a DM with just what you've learned from the podcast, how it's helped you, and you could go in the running to win the 16-week program absolutely for free. So just thought I'd quickly shout that out for any of you. It's going on for the month of February. So if you have any questions, let us know, but that's as simple as it needs to be. So just make sure that you do that and you could be in the running to get your fat loss journey started. This episode is all about the things that I've learned coaching dads. So 7 things that I've learned coaching dads, about the way that they tend to show up, especially around health and fitness. And without going around it, number one, let's just cut straight into it. Dads keep putting themselves last. Now, they can see this as I put other people first or I put my family first, but what I see it as their coach is they tend to put themselves last. And this manifests in a bunch of different ways. It manifests in that they don't invest in themselves, right? When it comes to, for example, something like a coaching program or even, new shoes, new clothes, things that they, I'll get by without it. She'll be right. That whole mentality, putting themselves last, constantly slogging it away at work. There's a big culture, especially in WA here, of, dads working FIFO. They're sacrificing a hell of a lot for their families. And that is admirable and it is amazing. And, we would all do that because we want to give the best lives to our families. But as a result, a lot of dads end up putting themselves completely last until they burn out. So my learning from this, from a lot of dads, is there needs to be, even if you're mostly putting your family first, and obviously you want to put your family first, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? If you're having a tea party, with your kids, with your daughters, and you try to pour some tea out and there's no tea in there, it's empty, right? So you can't give that tea to your kids if you're empty. And that's the metaphor here. You can't pour from an empty cup. So if your cup is always empty, you're not going to be able to pour out. You're not going to be able to be your best self for your kids. This is a huge thing that I need a lot of dads to understand. It's like, yes, in the short term, and this is the next one, in the short term, you can give your kids, I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to burn myself out so I can give them what they want. But then what they really want with you is more time and more longevity. But you haven't then got the capacity to continue to give to that. Whereas if you give out, let's say 80%, 70%, and then you reserve a bit of time to work on yourself, whether it is physically, whether it's emotionally, whether it's taking time for a hobby or something that fills up your cup, that makes you feel happy, that gives you energy, then you can go back to your kids and back to your family with more energy and with more vitality and with more of the stuff that they want from you, which is the time, without you feeling absolutely shattered. So dads keep putting themselves last. They need to start to prioritize themselves, even if it doesn't mean, hey, I'm putting myself first every single time. It's just about there are dedicated times where you get to do things that are important to you. Number 2, a lot of dads tend to focus on the short term, the immediate needs of the family and of themselves over the long-term trajectory, right? And this isn't just typical of dads, it's typical of a lot of people at the moment. There's the short-term instant gratification mentality. I'm really tired, so I'm just going to get takeout on the way home rather than go home and cook a meal. And, we're running short on time, so we're just going to grab Macca's, right? All of these little things where they're just focusing on the short term. They're focusing on what is the immediate need. All right, we've just got to get through this weekend, or I've just got to get through this swing, or we've just got to make a little bit more money until the market comes good again. And then they're not doing anything proactive about whether it's their finances, their health. They're constantly focusing in on what is the next short-term objective. It's like living paycheck to paycheck, but from an emotional standpoint and sometimes from a physical standpoint too. So there has to be, and this is kind of that putting yourself last as well. It's like, it's constantly focusing on, just that next little bit. I'll just get through that next little bit. But then you're never really getting any further ahead. You're just barely keeping afloat. And there needs to be, it's hard because obviously sometimes when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you need to just keeping afloat, but there needs to be at least a little bit that is going towards the long-term trajectory. Same thing when it comes to, I'm just going to do this quick, we've just recently launched a 14-day challenge. We've got another one coming up. If you want to register, I'll chuck it in the link for you, in the bio and in the description. But they focus on something like that. They'll do that challenge and then they'll just do nothing else. So, all right, cool. I'm back. I'm doing something. I'll do this 14-day challenge and then I'll just go back to doing whatever I was. Cool. That's not going to really change things for you over the long term unless you're willing to make longer term changes, which are a little bit harder, require a little bit more effort. But that's usually, for me, that's usually because dads are at capacity, because they keep putting themselves last. So you can see how these kind of stack with each other. Number 3, dads need better ways to cope with stress. This is a huge one. A lot of dads take on board so much stress and so much pressure, especially primarily for a lot of them when it comes to providing for the family. You go out, you work a long shift, you come home, then you're in dad mode, you're parenting, you're taking the kids out to the playgrounds or for a walk, doing dinner, bed, bath, all of that stuff. And then you get up the next day and you do it again. And it can be exhausting, right? And there can be a lot of stress and pressure, especially if, times are tough. Jobs are struggling, people are, if you've got a lot of pressure heaped on at work because you're understaffed, because of skill shortages, all of that stuff, that stress needs an outlet. And you don't want to be blowing up at your kids. You don't want to be having fights with your wife because, that's not what it's about. That's not where the stress is coming from. You don't want to be drinking. You don't want to be doing drugs. You don't want to be doing any of that kind of shit because that is a really negative pattern to cope with stress. And that's the shit that your kids are going to learn from you. Oh, when dad's stressed, he comes home and he has a beer. All right, or 4 or 5, and then that's his way of dealing with it. But what one quote I love about alcohol is like, alcohol is like borrowing happiness from tomorrow. It's like you're borrowing stress relief from tomorrow, but you're not even relieving the stress. You're just numbing yourself, and that numbing just continues and continues and continues to either become an alcoholic or it just fucking blows up because you can't numb it anymore. So you need better ways of coping with stress, and that usually comes with thinking about and dealing with the stress as it comes up and focusing on, well, what is causing the stress. All right. Are there things within my control? Are there things without my control? If there are things that are out of my control that are simply stressful, what can I do to help me relieve that stress in a good way? Maybe you need to get a boxing bag and just start punching it a little bit, right? Doing a little bit of that. It's better than punching a wall. It's better than throwing shit around the house. Better than having a drink. Just go out and, spend 5 minutes getting your anger out in the bag. Tape your boss's face to the punching bag. Do whatever it is you've got to do to work out that stress. It might be going for a walk. It might be talking to your partner. Your kids will learn stress coping mechanisms from you. So if you show them examples of healthy ways to cope with stress, then they're going to learn those ways and they're going to take those forward. If you bottle it all up and you show them, and you don't show them that you're feeling stressed or that you work through your stress in a healthy way, they're not going to know how to deal with stress when it comes up for them because they literally learn it exactly from you. So dads need better ways to cope with stress, whether it's involving meditation, mindfulness, deep breathing, sauna. It's probably not in the middle of summer, but, an ice bath, something like that. Like just doing something physical with the body. Like it is very important that, especially for dads, when it comes to emotions, you do something physical. The more physical you do, the more it helps you actually work through the emotions going on. Actually, like physiologically, inside your brain, neurologically, that's the word I was looking for. Your body needs to move to help you process and feel emotions. Like for men, it is a far more important thing than for women. Women will tend to get through it by talking it out. For men, you need to physically move before you can really process the emotion, which is why sometimes it comes out in outbursts of like, slamming a book on the floor or just like, getting up in a huff and needing to move around. Or, for some guys, it is punching a wall or whatever. Like it is important that you get moving to get the emotions flowing. So you need better ways of coping with stress, ideally ones that involve movement. Number 4, dads worry about letting others down, right? We worry about letting our families down. We worry about not being good enough constantly. Now, it's a human thing to be concerned about not feeling good enough or not feeling enough in general, but we worry about letting others down, worry about letting our families down. Some of my guys, they worry about letting me down. I'm like, cool, if that's going to get you motivated, awesome, but like, doesn't matter to me whether you do or don't hit your goals. Like for my life, I'm still going to sleep tonight. It matters more about you. So you should be really worried about letting yourself down. But that perception of what if I let someone else down? What if I don't do good enough? That tends to be a spiraling effect when, let's say, they miss a check-in or they have a big weekend with their, a wedding or a social event. Then they worry that it's let me down, then they don't check in, and then you just spiral out of control because the negative emotions continue to build on top of each other because one day bleeds into another. Whereas most of our guys now, they know to come with me like, oh yeah, this is what the weekend looks like. Oh, it's probably going to be a bit of a write-off, but then I just get back into it because we've trained them so often. If you have that, we just never miss twice, right? You go in, you have a couple of days that are a bit big. All right, cool. We get back on the wagon. By the end of the week, we've erased whatever weight we've put on. We've probably progressed a bit. Right? So dads they worry too much about letting others down and not enough about letting themselves down and what's important to them. Number 5, dads work really hard. dads work really, really fucking hard, right? Oftentimes it's because they worry about letting others down that they do work really hard. But what this means is if they're not doing things 100% right, they often shut down, they get defensive. And this happens a lot in the relationships I see. They shut down, they get defensive because they're working really hard. But if they're feeling like they're not doing enough or they're letting someone else down, then it's like, fuck, I'm trying really hard and I'm working really hard. And, in a combination with everything else, I'm feeling stressed and I'm not coping with it. I'm feeling burnt out because I'm not putting myself first. All of these things are stacking on top of each other, right? I'm in the short-term needs. I'm not getting any further ahead from a long-term perspective. And then they start to shut down. It starts to become a problem. But they work really, really hard. It's just, what are you working really hard at? There's no point climbing a ladder effectively that you shouldn't be climbing at all, right? There's no point doing effectively that which should not be done at all. So dads do work really hard. They have a great work ethic, and I want you to apply that. It's like guys like, oh, I don't know if I could do this challenge, or maybe I'm just not. It's like, you work fucking 12-hour days in the Pilbara. Like, you do hard shit all the time. This should not be that difficult for you to track a meal or two and start to choose to eat some protein instead of eating some burgers and chips. Like, I want you to almost apply that same work ethic and that same mentality that you take to work, right? That you do, and then take that and apply that to your personal life and apply that to your goals and treat it like a job, and you work so much more harder at it. Number 6, dads need better support and better mates. Now, I'm not saying that your friends are shit, but I'm just saying that for a lot of people, they do not have the kind of friends that will support them and push them in pursuit of a higher goal, in pursuit of their fat loss, or in just increasing their level in life and moving forward. A lot of dads really struggle with that. And it can happen because, a lot of times the partners can be, complicit in this, and you want to be comfortable. We want them to be comfortable. We want them to just kind of like, oh, let's stay in our cozy little bubble and order takeout and do this. And sometimes a dad going on a weight loss journey can cause their partners to become a little bit, self-conscious, because like, oh, fuck, does that mean I should be doing this? Is he saying that I'm, and make it, it'll be playing in their heads about themselves. Should I be doing a weight loss journey as well? What if he gets shredded and he doesn't want me anymore and stuff like that? And same with the mates. It's like, all right, you don't want to come down to the pub anymore. We're not going to go to the pokies. We're not going to do this, because you're busy at the gym, or you don't want to come and have a Palmer because it doesn't fit in your calories or whatever. Real mates, and the mates that really matter to you, should support you on these self-betterment journeys. They should support you in things like drinking less and becoming the best version of yourself. The support networks that a lot of dads have around them are just people either from high school or from work that they've just continued to associate with by default instead of by choice. So dads in general need better mates and better support networks. And part of this, honestly, comes from dads asking for help and support. It's not something that a lot of dads do. They don't show that vulnerability. They don't say, hey, I really need some support and some help with this. I really need you to be able to be on the same team as me. And if I start, having a couple too many, tell me, look, mate, don't forget about your goals here. You need more people like that in your life, instead of people that are a little bit more self-focused and just want you to be the friend that they've always seen you as. Because a lot of people, they don't like change, right? Change is different. Change is scary. Friends start to change, they start to drift apart, all that kind of stuff. But you've got to be selfish in your priorities and say, well, what do I really want? And it's not about demanding things from your friends and from your family, but it's just about saying like, hey, this is my goal. This is something that's really important to me, and I would love your support. And this will really draw a line in the sand as to who are your real friends and who are your real mates, and the ones that actually give a shit about you versus the ones that don't. But it all does come back to you actually asking for support, not just doing something behind your wife's back and then her figuring it out. And then, why'd you buy chocolate for? You never told me you're on a fucking fitness plan. You never told me you didn't want me to buy chocolate. We normally buy it. So let's have a conversation about it. So part of that getting better mates and getting more support comes from actually asking for the support. And then finally, number 7, dads just need to back themselves. A lot of dads are low in confidence especially from a physical standpoint. Maybe they used to be fit, used to be good at training, used to be, doing sports. As they got older, they got more sedentary. They sat down more. Maybe they got injuries. You just gain a bit of extra weight and you're not feeling 100% about yourselves. But, you've done one of the hardest things that there is to do, which is being a parent, right? And I remember this great quote. It's like, parenting is only hard for good parents, right? If you're a deadbeat parent, parenting's easy because you just don't do shit, right? So you've already done the hardest thing, which is, and you're listening to this podcast because you want to be the best version of yourself. You want to be the best dad you can be. Dads just need to back themselves. They need to back themselves. They need to put a vote of confidence in themselves and say, hey, I can fucking do this. because I've already done plenty of hard shit. I did sleepless nights with changing nappies and bottle feeds. And then I did, the multiple wake ups and the putting down for naps and walking up and down, going shh and patting the bum and, dealing with school and dealing with work and dealing with that. You've done so much shit already. And part of backing yourself comes from looking back and going, what have I done? What am I proud of myself for? And this is kind of a little bit that I want you to actually take away and work on this week is like, what am I proud of myself for? What am I really proud of myself for that I have achieved in life? What are some hard things that I have done and I have pushed through? Because you can push through this too. You can push through and you can drop the weight. You can get your dad bod gone and become the fit dad you always wanted to be. You can make the money. You can do all the things that you want to do if you back yourself, because you have done hard shit before and you can do hard shit again and succeed. So that is the message for me from this podcast. Those are the 7 things. If you have any questions, if you want to enter the competition to win that 16-week transformation, leave us a review, 5 stars. Let us know how has the podcast helped you. Shoot us a DM with that as well. Would love to hear from you guys as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing you then. So don't forget to leave a rating, leave a review, send us a message to enter that competition. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next week. Till next time, peace out.